We are recording.
All right. The May 2025 meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District is called to order at 6:01 p.m. We have a quorum present. Is there anyone for public comment?
There is not.
Okay. Moving on to the financial report, please.
All right. Well, good evening. And the thing about the financial report this month is that I'd like to get your opinions. We're switching kind of the format. It's not a treasurer report now because currently without a treasurer, so it's a financial report. So I've done a few things that I hope you like, but more importantly, I just want to hear if you like it. And if there's anything you want us to change for the following months, we'd like it. The first first couple slides are going to deal specifically with the month of April, which is our most recent month. You'll see the revenue. As you know, our revenue comes in twice a year in big chunks, April and October, things I learned. Anyway, so we got our big April property tax payment, which is why the number is so large. But we're running in the green. The green in this case is good, meaning that we brought in a little bit more than we anticipated bringing in. Similar to expenditures, our expenditures are a little bit down, and that's even in lieu of the fact that we've made a couple of our larger purchases. As you remember, we bought Tom's truck. We also have a Workman, one of Tom's machines. So the fact that expenditures are down and we've made a couple of our bigger purchases, a good start to the year. Then if you look at the cumulative for the year, so you look January through April of this year, you'll see that our revenue is higher than anticipated by about 51,000, and our expenditures are down about 76,000 than what we expected. So overall, things are trending in the right direction. Obviously, these numbers are about to get much larger as we get into our projects. The fund balance is just here for your reference. Nothing too exciting here, just where the funds are as of the end of April. And then a new slide. This is our aquatic center budget, and specifically the bond money. So you'll see this column first starts with the 15 million, which we received in the first installment of the bond money. We also have received to date about $328,000 worth of interest. Island County invests the money, so it gets invested. So we get about $30,000 a month we've been getting in interest, which is nice. There is a cap to that we're still kind of working on. There's only so much interest you can claim, but so far so good. That's that's going to help. We also got a small grant. Small is relative. We had a $13,000 grant reimbursement at the start of the year from the Department of Commerce. That was just a leftover grant. So this was the money that we have to spend to date. Since we got the $15 million, we've spent about $786,000, leaving this much left of the $15 million. What'll be fun about this slide is watching the last two columns change. This column here is going to start going up. This column here is going to start going down. At some point, we'll get the other 12 million, which is the rest of the bond money. So I just thought it would be interesting to see a slide that kind of highlights how the bond money is being spent. That would be something that the public would enjoy seeing too. So anyways, that's kind of the new format of the financial report. Would love any questions or what you think of is this the information you want? Is there different information you want or that you think the public wants? We hitting highlights here. Okay. You like the black background because I went black versus white.
Yeah, for that.
Okay.
But I want it white when you send it to.
Yeah, I changed it today. That was the.
Because I don't want to. Yeah.
I like the bars instead of the graph too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very easy to read. On all the slides.
In what way? Oh, do you want
Like
numbers
and a dollar sign?
Yeah.
On the left.
Dollars.
Yeah, it's the
Currency.
yeah. I tried to play with that, I couldn't figure it out. There we go. I can always use more help. Anyways,
I'd just be happy if they weren't turned when they are delivered to me, because I opened everything up to read it ahead of time. And everything is, maybe it's just me.
slanted.
Yeah, everything.
Well, it comes.
You gotta flip them all to
Sideways?
see in
Oh, really?
or do this.
Oh, I weird. Sorry.
I thought I saw, as I was going through the updated voucher, I thought I saw like an interest payment for,
Yes.
I thought it was this.
Yeah, so that would be new or just from what I sent today.
Gotcha. So that would be May. So we would see that in the next
I'm a little unclear as to when that payment will go through. It's due June 1st. They
Okay.
usually do it on the day, but that's a Sunday, so it
And
might be May.
where would that be represented though?
You would see it go back a few slides to your fund balance.
Oh,
There,
Here,
yeah. Oh, no, you don't have the bond fund.
I don't have the month on it.
Okay,
okay, but
Well,
that's where we would see
Right,
it and
that's where
maybe
we-
a notation like such and such payment went out. Like, I don't know.
Yes. Well, that is the way the financial report will come until for the indefinite future.
And,
Uh,
but we'll still get the
Budget to actual.
the budget to actual.
That's where we're getting this number. We're trying to make something that
enjoyed
not
that.
only you, but that the public can see easily and just look and say, okay, we're doing all right. Or we're not doing all right if that was the case. In this case, we are. So we can switch over to vouchers if that's all right. Vouchers, overall, pretty good. I highlighted a couple, that were just minor. They're just commenting more than anything. You'll see that Jerry Beck, we had a Jerry Beck last month too. This was another, what we think was a victim of the lightning strike. So we had to have him back out. And Tom can probably explain what exactly he did this time.
It was basically the same component. It's a small electrical plug-in device that activates the starter with a booster punch. And we started firing all the irrigation up. We'd already repaired everything associated with the tank. This was right on top of the hill, refill inside the tank. And that one was fried as well.
Wow.
Yeah,
So that lightning strike was quite an eventful
Can we
thing.
back up to the L's, please?
Sure.
Or no, we're not into the L's. Never mind, keep
Oh.
going.
We're just entering the L's.
Les Schwab, Les
Oh.
Schwab.
Mhm.
Right, that's this one here.
Vehicle repair, vehicle and shop repair.
Yep.
What happened? Which
flush
you?
swap.
Yeah.
Tires,
It's time for new tires.
tire replacement. We got a very expensive one on one of our bigger mowers. Was pretty much wearing through, just down to the cords on the one side. That one was 5.
Yeah, 614.
Yeah, just normal.
There's a lot of park stuff in the vouchers, as you would imagine.
Well,
right?
yeah.
Tis the season.
Season.
Is the season. A couple of fun things. This is the public sector. This is the employee survey compensation study we did. 6,000 is several thousand less than what we had budgeted, which was good. I think we had 10,000 or so on that budget line. So we saved a few thousand on that one, which was great. One more that I highlighted. Oh, we got a little refund out of Tom's truck. So there's $1,000 back in our coffers. And finally, I had one more highlighted one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for the fun, twice, I'm sure you all noticed that in the local paper, twice this month, we had legal notices in the legal sections. I know you guys read those. Anyways, and those will be more common. That's just something we had to do we did for the pickleball project and the pool. I forget which one this was, but anyways, just thing that we have to plug and play. So
For building projects.
yes, yeah, just permitting and we're doing it and let people have a chance to comment. So anyways, and a lot of park stuff. Nothing else really jumped out at me, but what else do you got? Any
Teresa
questions?
Johnson.
Yes, she's our CPA. We're gearing up for our next audit. I know we just feels like we just got done with our last one, but our next 2-year financial audit starts this fall. So Carrie's been very, very busy getting them some information.
but this is mainly our financial statement compilation
Oh,
for
yes.
24.
Pacifica Law Group also is going to be a very common thing. You're going to see a lot of, we've been using, they've been wonderful, but we have a lot of things that we need legal advice on, we have to make sure we're doing things right. So any other questions about the vouchers? Well, thank you. Oh, sorry, I had one more. The Kabuto, as you said that, I'm checking my phone. Okay, the Kabuto Workman, this is one of Tom's equipments. We're actually going to build this against the Max Welton Trail Fund, for lack of a better way to put it. We had about $54,000 left in that fund, and we'd like to use it up. We had talked to the attorney, I've been 6, 7 months ago now, about how to use that money up because it's just sitting there. So she gave us a lot of leeway, and since the workmen will be used on those trails, it seems like a good use to use the money towards that. And then we're going to spend the rest of that money, I think, I'm sure on gravel the rest of the year. So we're going to try to empty out that fund by the end of the year, as we have 54,000 just sitting there not doing much. So, anyways, more park stuff. That is all I got.
Right, there are no further questions about the financial statements. We can move on to the consent agenda. There are no questions or feedback for that. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second, done.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, I.
Jake,
Oh, there's no map.
Okay.
That's not here.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Moving on to the staff report.
Staff report, thank you. Relatively quick staff report today. The busier we are, the shorter these reports get, just because a lot of things going on. Summer program registrations are going really well. Swim lessons are almost full. We have adult sailing starting here in a couple weeks on the 31st. Sky had a really cool, I don't have this on here, but had a really cool kind of like trading card hangout thing this last Saturday.
Yeah.
A bunch of the little league kids showed up. A lot of adults showed up with stuff. It was quite the hit, and I think something that they'll be looking to do more of. And Sky brought huge boxes of his personal collection and gave a whole bunch to the kids of cards that didn't have any monetary value, but to the kids meant something. So kids went home with just gobs of cards, and it was a kudos to Sky. It was a really cool idea and a really cool afternoon. So.
that's a really good.
And perfect correspondent, the Little League tournament or game got canceled. It was a tournament or a game, but so the kids could even come earlier because they didn't have any game to
That's
play.
great.
So it worked out well.
How many people roughly went and what was the breakdown?
Probably like
Adults?
25 to 30 kids and all their parents.
Okay.
Then probably had 5 separate adults. I had like some older adults who just came in and dropped off a couple boxes. One guy that had pulled out like a shoe box that had like, he's like, I had these when I was a kid, and I went through and was like, well, we've got like $3,000-4,000 for the cards in here. And so, the goal was to also explain. He's like, well, what do I do with them now? Here's all the options that you can have in consignment, but at least, that was one of the goals. Is there's probably people walking around where they don't know any of this, and then we even had like an 8-year-old kid that had like a $500 baseball card that he pulled out of a pack, and it was just wow. I mean, okay, here you go. Here's something to put that thing in.
Not to see that.
Keep it nice, yeah.
Talk to the parents about it.
Who's Baby Ruth?
It was one from like that he got one pack for his birthday. It was $25 for the pack and big card, but
Nice.
yeah, and the kids, they were all like, I brought a bunch of my personal collection, was willing to trade with them and taught them how to trade. So then after that, they were all sitting with each other and trading back and forth. So
That's awesome.
it was really good time.
Thanks for putting that on. That sounds incredible.
And on the other side of the spectrum, we have the triathlon. City of Langley is doing some road work, which is causing some rerouting, which means it's likely where the current projection has it going through downtown Langley, which is a lot busier with tourists. And so, yeah,
Really?
yeah, it's really the second year in a row, this triathlon has been a real challenge from just a last minute logistics. Now we're not quite last minute, so we are earlier. So what we did is we reached out to the traffic control plan people. There's a company that does this, and just want to make sure we're really covering ourselves from everything's covered as far as these different intersections now and how traffic, the thing is that bikers will sign that they will follow the rules of the road, but they're also in a race. So as they're coming through Langley and hitting those stop signs, they're supposed to stop, as all traffic does. But Langley's been, I think, pretty good, accommodating so far. We haven't got a final verdict on it yet. But that's taken a lot of this guy's time the last couple of weeks, just trying to work with them and submit stuff and reroute and draw maps and set meetings and
Yeah, and it throws out some extra kinks of just. It comes down to city lighting, but I had a meeting with their public works guys. Had to go over something, and they're gonna see if it's possible to just shut down parking on one side of the road for that morning. Cause we'd still get the angled back out parking going the opposite way, but that's not as dangerous. And then also just kind of figuring out, well, you've got extra intersections, you've got the three-way stop at the bottom of the hill where they do the soup box derby. And then you also have like those crosswalks to Dog and Boyd Park where everybody's walking back and forth. So how do we mitigate some of that?
The other consideration, and I'd have to pull up a tide chart and take a look, but First Street is how vehicles with boats access the marina. So you're gonna have,
more of a morning thing, which is what we need there.
Making that wide turn.
What?
there's like no other, it's the 19th, right?
Yeah,
Haven't seasoned.
Nobody will ease in that. I'll be one of them.
Okay, so it could be worse. It's a low tide. It's pretty much a zero tide at, we'll call it 7 in the morning. So it's probably okay until about 11:30, like 11.
so where would I be looking out? If, so you're saying they're going down to the marina? So they would have to come up first because they probably can't make that sharp turn around. So
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't come in on Cascade or Second and do that turn, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a trailer, you gotta come in on First and get into Wharf Street that way.
Well, and you know, in the discussions I've had, like I've been very honest, like if I was a business owner and that road got shut down, I wouldn't be too happy. And I completely understand that's nothing that we'd ever be asking, but it was, you know, we're still gonna have the bikes on there, but it's also letting the bikes know, like, you can't be passing people, you need to be patient, like you're still a vehicle on the roadway. But, you know, at least getting that traffic off the parking off that one side and not having to worry about a car going opening or somebody pulling out when a biker's going by. It's our biggest piece, but that's another fun layer to it all. Thank you.
This guy's been doing a great job and he's been working. We worked with a couple of the triathletes trying to figure out new ways to promote it. You know, we're trying to save it is what we're trying to do. And we'll see. We'll see what the numbers come in this year. I mean, last year the numbers were bad. So we need a change. So I think these guys worked really hard to do everything we can do to make that happen. So yeah, we'll get there.
Related to the triathlon, so Bob has a new dog, and so I frequently run into Bob at the dog park, and he's doing really well.
Okay.
And he has a new, better, lighter aluminum boat to use to put down the buoy lines in the lake, and like he's ready to go. So
We've also had somebody else
Good.
that's volunteers.
awesome.
Well, I didn't know Mark knew that. I didn't know.
I've got a platform with an electric motor on it.
Awesome.
Nice big. Pulled by.
We'll talk. Cool.
That guy was volunteering. I didn't know that.
Here, talk.
Okay. Facilities and grounds, speaking of the lakes, we'll stay on the lake for a while. The vault toilet painting has been challenging. They've had some weird issues out there, but I think if it's not done, it's pretty close to done. I think they've made progress.
The inside is, the floor is gonna be bigger project.
Yeah.
That black paint.
I meet with Leslie
Yeah.
on Friday.
Well, it's better than it was. I mean, when she looked at it, it wasn't even finished. They were half. And the paint, I don't know if it's the paint quality they ended up, as you saw in the vouchers, there was paint bought. I'm sure that had something to do with that. And this ended up having to go spend a lot of money to make this better. So
Big one was a humidity issue, put it on and she ran.
Yeah,
It's just so humid. and weird.
yeah.
Got some issues. Best we can, and it's still gross.
Get it done. But they do. Deer Lake, I don't know if I reported on this, but Deer Lake was having buoy line problems again. The buoy line had come free. There was I think you saw it, I saw on the local social media, there was a situation with a dog and their owner. The buoy line's a very complicated thing because no one claims it. And there's a lot of liability issues when you start messing with things that have safety concerns. So Department of Fish and Wildlife says we don't do swimming. Got it. Island County doesn't claim it, even though it's water related. So fortunately, it looks like the last two times it's happened, there's been a private citizen who's just taken care of it and just went and fixed it and put it back in place. So it's back where it should be. Long term, there needs to be some ownership, and then and like I said, if you can take it out. And the Department of Fish and Wildlife was kind of on that path of we can send our guys and just remove it. But then that potentially brings up safety issues with jet skiers in the summer versus swimmers in that area and not having area. So anyways, long story short, it's not our circus, not our monkey, but it is our community. And we want to make sure that it's as safe as possible. So communication and conversations with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, they're the ones that are responding. Island County hasn't been as responsive on this. So we keep talking about it, but for now it's been patched back together. The buoy line's back where it was. And thank you to the anonymous person who steps up and takes care of business. So then irrigation issues, which is just normal spring stuff for Tom and his guys. That's just what they do. So my stuff, Sky and Tom and I met with a couple of the fire department this last week to talk about National Night Out. They had it at the fairgrounds last year. They want to move it into our community park this year. They're hoping for as many as 300 people. That would be nice. And 150 last year, they said. So I think we've worked it out. It's gonna be pretty cool. August 5th. It's gonna be. They're talking about having a helicopter come in. They're gonna do one of those jaws of life, kind of destroy the car things, which is kind of fun. There's some other things with the water hoses and things. And then we realized that our concert in the park with Dr. Savage, which is one of the most popular groups, they can only do August 5th. So we've decided to make lemonade and to combine the two, which will make parking a bit of a challenge. We've talked about maybe shuttling options from the high school. We have to get high school permission for some of that space and making sure the high school is not under construction. So there's a few logistics for us to figure out. Worst case, if parking does become an issue because of the high school projects, our backup plan would be moving Dr. Savage up to the sports complex. So we do have a backup plan to split the events up. But Sky brings up a good point. I think a lot of the touch a truck parents might say, "Oh, music," and they might be more. They might gravitate. Apparently, Dr. Savage is very family friendly. So I haven't had the privilege. So, but National Night Out, we're excited. We also started the conversation about doing some other. I've had great success doing programs with fire departments. So they started talking about their trunk or treat and other things that we might be able to partner on through the years. And so we'll see how this one goes, but so far so good. Next month, due to Carrie being gone for a really long time and the Juneteenth holiday, which happens to follow the day after the board meeting, we're planning on submitting the vouchers early, meaning before you guys approve them at the board meeting. It's the most efficient. So if you guys don't have any objections to that, that's our plan. I'm just giving you guys a chance to say I don't like that idea. So, which leads me to my next point, which is Mary's going to be off for 4 weeks. So starting June 13th, this office will be a lot of fun, but not that Carrie's not fun. It's not the way I meant it.
Well, the cat's away.
That did not come out the way I wanted it to come out. What I was trying to draw a picture of is there'll be a lot of chaos and a lot of fun, but meaning that, but never mind. I'm just going to keep going.
Moving on.
Moving on. Well, we've officially given away our property to Island County for the deeding of the land this is the 20 feet for the aquatic center, 10 feet for the Langley Road for the two projects. The paperwork was filed with the county this last week. That was quite a endeavor, but we got there. The lawyers from Pacifica were quite helpful, and yeah, it's amazing how hard it is to give away land. It's the challenge, but that is done. 3 commissioners positions end at the end of this year, their terms. May 9th was the deadline. The three incumbents all applied for another term. They were the only ones that applied for those positions, so looks like we are
the only one who's ever had someone.
really interesting. Okay, well, the good news is it's very simple this year. Congratulations. So that'll make the ballot a little simpler. A couple holidays coming up. Memorial Day is on Monday, and Juneteenth will be closed, and then of course our board. So that is our standard.
Just a question, do
Sure.
we need to, with submitting the vouchers before the meeting? Do we need to approve anything,
Need to come in and sign it.
sign, or like,
You'll still sign the blanket voucher and we'll
Okay.
forward that on to them.
okay,
It's just they have to be submitted by 4 o'clock on that one day of our board meeting. So
Okay.
we'll send them on before I leave probably. And then when when you guys sign that, we'll forward that to
okay.
the auditor's office.
Carrie is working very hard to be very organized before she leaves, which we appreciate. There will be a lot of cheat sheets and a lot of, a lot of things getting done, so she can go and relax. She's earned it. So,
We'll move on to committee and community meeting reports, if any.
I just have a question with, you mentioned Fish and Wildlife
Mhm.
and how they've been responsive, which is terrific. But any movement on any of the things that they said that they would follow up on or dig into at our lake meeting?
they've done a few things. I know they replaced the fence.
Got a post
Yeah.
at your lake that was run into,
Yeah,
that was replaced.
okay,
They did do that.
okay.
Really the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I don't think there's after anything else either.
I think for both Lone Lake and Goss Lake, they were going to, I think, Belinda
Glenda.
was specifically going to look at kind of jurisdiction or what,
Trying to remember.
what's possible, just, yeah.
I'll have to go back and read the notes.
Mhm.
I'll go back and read the notes, and we'll see what we talked about, and maybe I'll just do a reminder email like, hey, where are we at?
Yeah, because I think you did a wonderful job of sending out kind of a wrap up of the meeting. And I have yet to see anybody respond to that. So maybe it's just picking that thread up
Right.
and
Off the top of my head, I think at Goss, they're gonna do a water bar across for the drainage into you're looking at the lake, little ditch.
Yeah.
Drive side,
right.
and then start the ball rolling about the tree or two of concern that more of the roots than not are exposed
Mhm.
Yeah.
From the
significantly.
kind of widowmaker hanging.
I was just reading today that maintenance agreement is up October 31st of this year.
Doing a new agreement, which we can talk about if there's anything we want to change. And the Department of Fish and Wildlife did reach out to discuss, they're putting together an advisory committee that is going to have a few meetings a year, it sounds like, and asked if we wanted to be represented in this, which of course we did, which I reached out to Jake and Krista, and they both said yes, as long as we can be together, because everyone's busy and you can't guarantee. So Jake and Krista are both going to be part of that committee, and then I'll be kind of the backup. So all three of us will be invited to the meetings. That's good. So the Fish and Wildlife are looking for area-wide feedback. They're putting together this kind of things so I think that relationship's going well. They just are really stretched out. So I think it's hard to,
With that maintenance agreement, Carrie, is that something we initiate with them? They initiate with us?
I think
I imagine that it'll probably be us
Yeah.
saying,
it's one of those agreements that everyone forgets about till someone doesn't.
yeah, but I think
So-
they write it. I'm pretty sure that it originates from them.
At some point, I'll bring it back to the board, say, here's our agreement that we have currently, anything we want to look at, anything we want to suggest, change, modify. And then I'll set a meeting with the Fish and Wildlife people to say, hey, let's talk about this and and maybe we'll say it looks good the way it is. I mean, maybe everyone's happy.
The agreement is on our website. under Oregon governance.
Great. We'll move on to unfinished business and comprehensive plan programs, which I think that's going to be short.
Yes, there's basically, we're
Says we're
talking
gonna
about the
talk
pool and the
about
pickleball
the
fields. Yep. So we're just gonna keep,
Well, then let's just talk there. New business.
Yep.
Bid packet for pickleball court.
yeah. And I'm gonna kind of show you kind of an overview before we get too far into this, before we get into the specifics, what the next 4 months is gonna be like. Like I said, I've affectionately called this the kickoff to chaos. But very possible in the next 4 months, we could be looking at going out to bid for both of our major projects. You guys coming and approving the contracts for both of these contracts, for both of these projects. Doing a levy resolution, which we've already started talking to the legal people about. And then potentially, if everything went perfectly, we could be breaking ground with both projects in the next 4 or 5 months. So, I mean, that's best case scenario. There's a lot to happen between now and then, but the point is that it's about to get real busy, in a good way. And like I said, this is what we've been waiting for. So it's about the talk is over, and now it's time to put a shovel in the ground. So we're getting close. But let's go to the pickleball. And with us tonight is Don and Philip, who are our landscape architects extraordinaire. And I'm going to pull up some of the slide packet, excuse me, as I pop around here. And I am going to, there we go. There we go. That's my theme for the next couple months.
Mhm.
So, with us tonight is like I said, Don Campbell and Philip. Is it Vandevanter? How do you say your last name, Philip?
That's right. Yep. Vandevanter.
I've never said your last name before. Anyways, these guys have been just wonderful to work with. These guys have been with us since the beginning. They're the ones who have put together all the plans that were in the bid packet, including, if you look in front of you there's a few hundred pages of the project manual on the middle table there. I did not print out copies for all of you. I did not think you would want them. Anyways, I was going to invite Don just to say a few words. He's the one who put together most of the bid packet that we're going to be discussing. And Don, would you like to say good evening and tell us what they looked at and any interesting stories?
Oh, sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Don Campbell with RWD Landscape Architects. I'm the Senior Associate Project Manager. Philip Vandevanter with me is also the project manager on this, on how we got to what you see in front of you. Basically, to make it short and sweet, the package you see in front of you or that you've been given is a lot of months of working through design, community input, and lots and lots of struggles with the jurisdictional agencies, as Brian probably could tell you. Thank you, Brian, for working through all that. But the package in front of you is bid set. It's ready. It's almost ready to go to out to bid. We have some minor details to work through. We still have final comments to receive back from Island County as far as the permitting goes. Once those comments are received and we incorporate them into a final document package, and that also includes a good session of quality control, then we will be ready to go to bid. And as Brian said, we hope things move fast and we're get our reports back positive from Island County, and we'll be ready to bid within the next month.
Thank you, Don. And so I'm going to have a few slides just to kind of walk through some of the updates on the project in general. These are the timeline goals. You know, the goals move here in this case, but our goal is to get this thing out to bid on June 11th or by June 11th. We have a walkthrough tentatively scheduled for the 17th where the contractors can come and meet with us on site. If this is the timeline, July 2nd would be when we would receive the bids. And RCO has to give us, RCO being the funders, the state funders, they have to give us the notice to proceed, which we got good news today that the cultural resources that we had to resubmit because we changed the scope, looks like June 20th is when we're going to get the clearance on that, which is good. So before we are ready to go, if we get the bids in early July. The goal would be by the end of July to have the contract executed and breaking ground. I think Don said it's about a 10-day gap between when the contract gets executed and when they have to break the ground. So, with the ribbon cutting by November, quite honestly, I was going to put October because that's really when I'd like to see it. But in the contract, they're going to have 100 days to complete it. They probably won't need that. It's a pretty straightforward project. It's not, like I said, there's no water, there's no electricity. It's just lay it down, put some fencing up, play ball. So this is our goal timeline to be playing by Halloween, Thanksgiving. There are some alternative items in this, just like there is in the pool. I'm going to kind of walk through some of these with you. The first alternate item is the sports court surfacing. So we're going to get pricing. Again, remember with alternative items, the goal is to give you, the board, options if the money comes in tight. So you then can look at these and say, we want this, we can't afford this, but this is more important to us than that. So all of these are just going to be options on your plate if we need to shave some money. The first one is the court surfacing. And Don, I'm going to let you chime in occasionally on some of this and kind of explain, actually, this one would be a good one, kind of explain the difference between the sports court surfacing versus the just court line striping. That'd be great to kind of get an overview of that.
Okay, and I also want to add one thing to the commissioners, that our goal is to deliver a usable set of courts that's 100% usable and that's something that we can afford to build. These alternative items don't decrease the ability to meet that objective. These are nice to have things. They're great to have, but our goal is that it does not, that it doesn't impact play or the recreational value of the facility. So, and one of those, as you say, is pickleball court, sport court surfacing. Pickleball courts, tennis courts, you see mostly have colors. Usually they're green with the blue play area. We have the same surface specified in this project. However, that could be upwards of $60,000. If that's not available in the bids, then we simply stripe the courts similar to how they're striped right now on the parking lot. The court surface without the sport court surfacing is a finer textured asphalt than the parking lot. So the court surface itself is much smoother, finer, and easier to play on.
So that would be one alternative item we look at. The second one is windscreen netting. I think windscreen netting is important there, but that's also something we could add afterwards if we needed to, probably at a lower rate because we wouldn't be paying the markups of a contractor. The third one, Donna, maybe chime in on this one too, the concrete curb and the difference between the two options there.
Well, again, the concrete curb we're talking about is the fencing that runs around the perimeter of the complex. You can put that fencing in the asphalt without any edging, or you can construct a curb and set the fence post in the curb, this concrete curb, about 8 inches wide. It looks good. It looks great. And it's something that way we prefer to construct the courts. And it also, having that curb around the courts, helps prevent wear on the edges of the asphalt over time. It does not impact the quality of play, does not impact play at all. It looks really good, and it helps retain the integrity of the asphalt edge over time.
I don't want to put you on the spot here, Don, but any idea what the price difference would be, ballpark? Didn't ask you for that ahead of time, so if you don't know off the top of your head, that's fine.
If I remember correctly, it's roughly $70-something thousand.
That's not insignificant.
It's not little money.
Yeah, interesting. The fourth one is kind of out of the box. We decided.
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
about the curb?
please, yeah. Go ahead.
Is the curb completely linear with the actual surface as well then? I'm assuming there's no lip there, or is there a lip?
Can you hear the question, Don?
Yes, there is no lip. It's completely, you pave right to the edge and there is no lip. And then on the outs, of course, on the outside of this curb, as well as whether we do the curb or whether we just do the asphalt edge, on the outside is a crushed aggregate or gravel apron to where you could set seats, you can walk, or have sit outside the courts. That answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
The fourth alternative is the basketball court resurfacing. Basketball courts are one of the more significant unresolved issues that are kind of on my part. We have one basketball court south of Cuba, and that's just crazy to me. So we need to fix this. And our courts, unfortunately, while they are beautiful, our court, I should say, simply is failing. It's bubbling when it gets hot. It's slippery. Me and my daughter go shoot there all the time now. She's home from college. And, it's slippery. It's got those bolts sticking out. So it needs to come out. And we need to put a sports court in there. We do have a lead from a private citizen who's reaching out to me, trying to be part of the solution at a very reduced price, which is great. So we're going to follow that lead. But as part of this project, what we're doing is we're asking, since they're coming out to do the pickleball courts, we're trying to figure out how much more would it be, figuring it would be cheaper to have while they're on site. So we're asking them to bid putting the resurfacing of the basketball court in the project, and we'll see what we can do, right? We're hopefully the price would come in at a rate, but even if it doesn't, it's giving us information we don't have, which is valuable. And then the fifth one, which is kind of the nuclear option, is we'll put in there the option of going from 6 courts to 4. I mean, if the bids come in just so high that we just simply can't afford it, again, it's about flexibility for you guys. We'll come in and we'll see the actual numbers here in July or August, and then you guys can look and say, no, we need 6 courts at all cost, or we don't. But it's flexibility. So we're going to ask them to give us the price difference and the difference, and those are the alternative items. Any questions in those? Okay. So what are we waiting on? What's the holdup? Well, final approval from the state and county for permitting, like Don mentioned. And then RCO's final approval. So we're not really waiting on much at this point. We're pretty close with the county. We've gotten some good progress, I think, in the last week from the state and some of that stuff. So, and RCO's ready to go. When they finalize the 100% set and the bid packet is completely done, we do have to send that to RCO and they've got to sign off. That's usually a relatively quick turnaround compared to some of the other stuff. So that's a step in here that we'll have to take too. So, any questions?
The basketball court, does that mean tearing up the tiles on the basketball court?
Yeah,
and
we'd get
putting
rid of the
new
tiles.
tiles down, or just surface?
Surface
Without tile.
without tile.
Gotcha.
Tile's nice. It's not a flat surface, and that's part of the problem. That seemed to be the problem with the tiles, which is why it's bolted. And quite honestly, I'm kind of doing a few projects now, but my number one project beyond this is figuring out how we can put more hoops somewhere, because there needs to be places for people to shoot baskets. So we're working on that too, but that's a side issue. Any questions for Don or Philip? Or
Can we get a picture of the curb and also the no curb?
Sure.
Just like a visual.
Well, I'm saying sure as if I know.
Previous project or.
Yeah. Don, did you hear the question? He's asking if they can get kind of a visual of what it would look like curb versus no curb.
Yes, I heard. I'm going to let Philip answer that.
Let me see if I've got, if y'all can see the screen, I can start sharing my screen here. Are you able to see that?
No, I'm looking to see if I can. Let me click out of this. Philip, I'm just, because I stopped sharing. I think I need to give you access to share. Hold on.
Yeah, I can see it.
You can see it. 3 steps ahead of the rest of the start.
Imagine, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why you can't share your screen, Philip.
Let me try sharing this here. Are you able to see it now?
Here we go. Now we can see it.
So this is a photo of a pickleball court we've got under construction in Lakewood right now. So this is the gravel base that sits under the asphalt. So the asphalt will be flush with this curb. But you can see this black post is the fence post. And this curb is a 12-foot or 12-inch wide curb, which is the same as it would be up at the South Woodby Sports Complex. So this kind of gives you a little bit of a visual of what that would look like. So the landscape would be, when this is brought up to final grade, the grass would be about a half an inch below the curb, the top of the curb on this side. The asphalt's going to be level with the curb, but it provides a nice, almost like a picture frame around the court, and makes it look nice and finished. But as Don said, it doesn't impact play.
But ours would have a gravel apron as well, is what I heard.
That's correct, yeah. So there would be about I think it's about a 4-foot gravel apron on all sides of the court. So you'd have this concrete curb, a gravel apron, and then the lawn outside of that.
Or as the base bid, it would be the asphalt would extend past the black post, the fence post that you see. The asphalt would extend over about a foot or so, about 14 inches. And then as you see in the drawing there, and it's that is in the drawings that you have that we submitted. And by extending that asphalt past the post, that allows us to maintain the slope that's necessary and not, so that it's completely uniform slope for play all the way to the fence.
I think we wanted asphalt. No, we don't have enough money.
Yeah, I guess that was my concern when I'm looking at that. I'm just thinking from past experience that gravel needs to be maintained. Gravel needs to be weed free. Gravel, the mower needs to go around the gravel to mow as well. And then that's supposed to be a place where picnic tables would be and or people, spectators would be then in the gravel is the idea.
It could be, the public meeting, they were very adamant about not caring about that. They were very adamant about, as Don said, the courts. We will figure out the rest. We'll bring our captain's chairs. We'll do what we have to do. We want the money spent on, that's why we're putting dividers down the courts, which is a luxury kind of item. We're doing some things that are extra because that's what they wanted. So there was discussion about that because the original design had a plaza with cool picnic tables and a hitting wall.
That's what I
and other
thought.
things. And which would be kind of a cool hangout spot because it's a social thing. It's pickleball social. And it's also an area that will build up over time probably. We'll probably add maybe some.
I'm just trying to envision the aesthetics of gravel. I'm there sitting in my lawn chair watching people play pickleball in the gravel, as opposed to grass. And I'm not suggesting that you go grass up to it. I was probably just a little, feeling about that.
You have a thought on that? I mean, your guys are the ones maintaining it.
In the summertime, it's gonna be burned up. Grass isn't growing at all out around it. Maybe it's something that the pickleball community, if they want to, we can raise some money and put in a 4-foot concrete sidewalk all the way around it. Or else, interesting.
How wide is the apron again? The gravel part of it?
I want to say 3 feet, but maybe not. Phil, do you know how wide?
Almost 5 feet.
5 feet? Okay.
Yeah, and it was also included as an aid called a mow strip, to where Tom doesn't have to weed eat and try and mow right up against the edge of the courts, right up against the concrete or the asphalt, whichever the edge is. So in essence, it aids maintenance because you can put a wheel of your wheeled maintenance vehicle on it, and you don't have to get off and weed eat around the edge of the courts.
Protects the fence from lawnmowers and people that don't pay as much attention as I do.
Which is everything.
That's why you have Tom.
Guy has a question.
If I can add to it, just in my experience with the local pickleballers here, I've always said they're akin to kind of older skateboarders, in that they will find any surface that's flat that they can put some lines out and play, and they'll deal with it, and they'll be real happy with it. Which is why we had people, out in this breezeway here, bringing lights in and leaf blowers all around, like even our courts outside. They have leaf blowers that they bring out there, but their biggest need is like, we just want courts with a divider so that balls aren't running back and forth, because they've been dealing with it for 8 years, and they just adapt to the rest of the surrounding. And they're sitting in a parking lot in lawn chairs right now with a lot of this. So
The one thing we did do, I'm glad Sky said that, because we did do the dividers down courts 1 and 2 and down courts 3 and 4. The courts 5 and 6, which would be the ones if we had to cut 2 would be cut. We did not put the dividers down because that gives us a little bit of flexibility. Maybe on a slow evening, the futsal people want to go kick some balls around or something like that. And so we put the dividers down 4 of the 6 courts, but we're not putting them down just to give us some programming flexibility. So anyways, but yeah, no, it's gonna be great. And this to me is the low hanging fruit. The ribbon cutting for this is going to be a lot of momentum for our pool, just showing the public that we got it done and it looks great. And now let's go build the pool. So
Decide when bids come in.
there'll be some, and hopefully we'll get everything we want. But that's fine too. I appreciate Don and Philip put together a lot of those ideas, and they all make sense. It's like, we could live without that if we had to. Jennifer.
Why do they give us 5% when they submit their bid packet,
Why does the
bidder?
bidder
Yeah.
give us 5%?
It's a commitment.
Yeah.
So it was intent and commitment. It's probably won't get cash or a check, although you could. It will likely be in the form of a bond.
The bid bond.
That's a state law.
It's just, it's a way of saying they're serious. So Eric doesn't go start a construction company and put his bid in. You could do that if you'd like. As Don mentioned, and Mark in our pool talk will be the same conversation. Neither of these bid packets are 100% done, but they're very close. And last board meeting, the board asked that they approve the bid packets before they go out to bid. What I'm asking and suggesting for both of these is that you just authorize us to go out to bid. In other words, the specific packet is maybe 97% there. As we're still getting feedback from the county and the state, there'd be some tweaking going on. And I gave to each of you, as I'm going to try each month to do, kind of verbiage suggestion. As you see on this one, the verbiage was just authorizing me to open bidding for the project once we've received everything that we need to receive. So you asked to approve it beforehand, so that's kind of the way I interpreted that request. So if there's no other questions for Philip or Don, I guess I'm gonna open up for discussion and a motion.
I would just say that out of those items, the possibility, and this is maybe somewhat to Sky's point about pickleball being played 6 versus 4, it would be the priority for me as voting.
I 100% agree. That's what I know. That's what the pickleball group would want. It's just if we get blown out with a bid, that's the only reason we would even consider it.
All right, any further discussion? Not, I would entertain motion.
I move to authorize the executive director to open bidding for the outdoor pickleball courts once all local and state reviews have been received.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded to authorize the executive director to open bidding for the outdoor pickleball courts once all local and state reviews have been received. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, guy.
Krista, I.
Big guy.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
And thank you, Don and Philip.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Take care.
Thank you.
Do you go to the next one?
Please, now on to the bid packet for the South Whitby Aquatic Recreation Center.
Okay, and as you can see here in the gallery,
we are joined tonight by Mark Bloom, our project manager. And he is, along with Pacifica, the attorney, and ARC, they have worked feverishly on what is an amazingly complicated packet, a lot of information with engineers and plumbers and yeah, there's a lot of detail. But Mark, I wanted to kind of let you say a few words since you've done a lot of the groundwork on this.
Yeah, it's actually been quite interesting. I love this part of the project and getting everything set up. We did initiate, and I think we'll probably talk about this in a minute, but we did initiate weekly conversations, meetings with the county. We found that to be necessary to keep things. Reviews had sort of stalled out, and so it seems to be actually really positive for them and for us. So which is great. Let's see here. We have gotten a little bit stalled out on Department of Health review of the water system, the addition of 100,000 gallon tank. And not to say that someone else probably they're understaffed and they just haven't quite really gotten to us yet. They keep sort of looking and poking around the edges, but so what we are hearing is that no material issue. Just they need to check their boxes. All good, and we're looking at feeling something.
We'll get to the timeline.
Okay.
Yep, we'll get there. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The immense amount of detail and precision it takes to get this right, this bid packet right, has made Mark and his team just irreplaceable. I mean, they've allowed us a sense of confidence that what we're putting out to the public is solid and good quality. And a lot of what we talk about is trying to minimize change orders. Because if we sign a contract for X amount of dollars and we get a gob of change orders, that could blow our budget up after we've signed a contract. So that's been a lot of what they've been doing, is just making sure that we're scrutinizing everything so that a contractor is getting a bid packet that they can work from and not have to double check and come back and ask for more money, et cetera, et cetera. So to that end, I've also got a few slides. This is a real important slide when we talk about it a couple of different times, because it really just highlights how the paths are about to split. So our goal is to get this out to bid June 2nd, which is unbelievably close, with the bids coming back July 9th. The month of July is going to be a little crazy, and I'm going to kind of explain why. So let's play this out. So it's July 9th, we're not opening the bids. We're not going to know on July 9th if we have a bid we can accept. We may know we don't have one. I mean, maybe we don't get any bids, or maybe the bids all come in extremely high. But it's going to take a while to really scrutinize the bids to make sure they actually are meeting all the criteria we want, that they've actually, that everything they're saying in there is what we want. So let's say we get a bid. Oh, yeah.
Who scrutinizes the bids?
Mark and his team, staff will obviously be involved. ARC, the architect, will be involved.
There's a cost estimator that has been involved, and they will be involved as well.
Yeah. So everybody, it's an all hands on deck in July is what it's going to be. Let's play the positive path. We get a bid we can accept. That wasn't me. And then what the next step would be, the board would need to approve the contract with the company, and also would need to approve the resolution for the levy, which would be in November. All these paths lead to us going out to the new levy in November. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But if it's a bid we can accept, we're only going out for our operational cost. So the levy would be our current operational cost, which is the 22 cents. And it would be the new operational cost of what it would take to run the pool, which we're working on those numbers feverishly right now. If that happens, then according to the schedule, substantial completion would be about February of 27, with the pool opening a couple months after that, probably about April. Again, that's best case scenario. I'm not saying this is happening. I'm saying this is the goals. These are the schedule as it is now. Then let's say the bids come in way too high, or we don't get bids at all. So the bottom half, we still need, in my opinion, to go out to levy in November. But the difference is now we've got to put into that levy money to be able to pay for what's called an LTGO. The LTGO is like what we did for the campground. It's a bond. It's something that I think our debt ceiling is like 25 million. So we have lots of money. We're not going to spend 25 more million. That's not what I'm saying. But an LTGO, let's say we need $3 million more for the pool. The LTGO is something we can take, but we have to, just like like a car loan or anything else, you have to make the payments each month for the debt. So we would have to increase our levy to be able to make those payments. So let's say we need $300,000 more a year to make these payments, which is a very realistic number. Then we'd have to put that in the levy in November. So see where July becomes very interesting, because we're not going to know till really probably late July how much we're going to need to ask the public. And we want to make sure we're really careful to make sure we're getting the right numbers.
Question.
Yep.
So in the scenario where we don't get a bid we can accept,
Right.
and we're going out for levy in November,
Yes.
that would be our current M&O levy.
Yes.
Plus what we would need for the LTGO.
Yeah. And plus what it would take
Plus
to run the
what-
pool.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
will it also
That's not great,
include,
It would
Okay.
basically be,
Right.
it would be this one here
okay,
plus
gotcha.
the LTGO.
Okay.
And Carrie and I met with the attorney yesterday from Pacifica, Deanna, the main attorney, because we wanted to walk through this and say, can we do this? Yada, yada, yada. And she said yes. We also met with Island County as far as levies, the person who does the levies up in Island County. We sat down with her last week and said, okay, this is what we're thinking we may want to do. Any problems? And she had no problems. It's a PR game at that point, though, because what we would have is from August until November is really wanting to maybe have some public meetings, really want to be real transparent with everyone, saying, here's what's happening. We need more money to build the pool. Things cost more these days. I'm really hoping we don't go down this path. I mean, we're all hoping to be on the top of this half. But we have to be ready for, if we don't get that bid, it's going to be a lot of, we're going to want to make sure that the public has every opportunity to hear from us why we're asking for this extra money. And so in that case, let's say we do it in November, they say yes. Now we have to go back out to bid, so we have to start the bid process over again. Hopefully that's a little simpler because these companies have already put a bid in, or at least looked into it. So in that case, we go back out to bid in January, bids open in February. So it pushes the project back 6 or 7 months. I mean, again, these are best case scenario, but so now we're opening late 27, maybe early 28, depending on how things fall. So those are kind of the two paths that we're looking at here. So July. So what happens in July? We open the bids on the 9th. We spend two intense weeks looking through these. We decide, hey, we have a bid we think we can accept. We bring that back to you. We're going to be looking at almost inevitably a special meeting in July, because we're not going to have this by the time the board meeting happens. And the special meeting will be twofold, ideally. It'll be approving a contract, ideally, with a contractor. And the second part would be the resolution for the levy, which we're going to have. So even if you're out of town even if you have to be here virtually, we need to have a quorum for that meeting. Penciling in that date would be July 28th, which is what the attorney suggested. She suggested having it, because I said maybe the 30th or the 31st. She said, give yourself a couple bonus days. So again, that's a pencil in date. And if it's and by then we'll know exactly how much. We're really working hard to make sure we don't want to take a penny more from the public than we need to. But we don't want to, we're working really hard to get the right number. We need to be able to run this pool efficiently and effectively without skimping and all that. So these are our two paths that we're looking at. Any questions about this? Because this slide to me is really important that you kind of understand where we're about to divide. We'll have another chance to look at this slide, don't worry.
Well,
I worked really hard.
regardless of which way, we do know that we're probably looking at public meetings.
Sure.
Because even if we're not talking about an LTGO, I think people are going to want to understand.
Why we're spending so much more, because it's going to cost.
No, I mean, so the levy,
Starting the levy.
they're going to want to understand, I think, or rather, there are a lot of questions, and I think the hesitation from people is, what is the M&O for the aquatic center going to cost me?
And I'm getting that. I'm this close to that number. I've got
I'm getting an insurance number and I'm getting a PSE number. There's a couple of big companies I'm still waiting for their numbers from. I got everything else in that budget. We have a budget specific that the public can see that lays out what we anticipate it would cost to run the pool, what we anticipate the revenue would be for that pool. That's a tough one because revenue is a tough one to predict. So we will be very happy that public meetings are a great idea. And we want the public to feel comfortable, right? We don't want to just try to push through a levy. We want them to say, this is the logic. This is what it's going to take. Let's go build a pool. Yay. I mean, we like to, we want this to be a positive, no matter which path, right? This is what people in this community have been waiting a long time for. We're very close, which is exciting. Just real quickly, as a quick reminder, we do have 3 deductive alternates in this project. And we talked about these. You guys approved these last fall or last summer. One was the office space, reducing the size of the office space by about 75%. Either way, the office space that's in the current plan isn't big enough for our current staff. Rephrase, it's big enough for our current staff. It's not big enough for us to grow. So I think either way, we're going to need an off-site location. But one of the deductive alternates is making that space even smaller, which is okay. The other one was getting rid of the 2 party rooms, basically making the fitness room into a multi-purpose room that would be for parties or for fitness. And then the third one was not doing the Mirtha pool, but doing a shot creek, which is the more traditional concrete liner that you would see in a normal pool. So those are the 3 deductive alternates. Again, as if we get close and we're debating things, these are things that you guys can look at when we get actual bids in front of us. So, and then again, what are we waiting for? As Mark said, we're waiting for DOH with the water. We've got a little bit with Highland County, the building permits, water, PSE. We're waiting to hear back from them. And then there's some other minor reviews of permits. With the pool, we're not waiting until we have the permit in hand to go out to bid. We are waiting until we get first comments back from everybody. So what happens is all these departments, all these jurisdictions say, okay, here's my feedback. And then as long as there's nothing in that feedback that's nuclear, and so far none of it has been. It's been stuff, but it hasn't been like, oh my goodness, we can't do that. So as long as it's all manageable stuff, then we're plowing forward because we've got to hit this August 1st date. The thing we'll talk about the levy in the next section, but August 1st is the date we've got to get everything into the county. So you see where that few weeks in July is going to be really intense. So we just have to keep things moving. So, and that's a relatively common practice from what I understand is once you've got first reviews back, then you're pretty comfortable going out to bid. So all of that is our pool. And the few hundred pages that I sent that are in SharePoint, Jennifer's suggestion last month we took up. So do access SharePoint. It's back up and running again. So the pickleball documents, all of them are there. All of the pool documents are there. They're also on the commissioner page. The thick ones are on the website, so the public would have access to them as well. So we put them in a few different places for people to be able to see. It's for people that really like to get into the weeds. Any questions for Mark? Mark's here, which is a treat, or for me. I say that hesitantly as if I know anything Mark doesn't know. All right.
I don't know how to ask.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask it.
Mhm.
What is the possibility of actually getting a bid that we can accept?
I'm taking first crack and then send it to you. I will say there's nothing else that we can do that would increase our odds of getting that bid. I'll say the first thing, and I'm not saying that to compliment us. I'm just saying the amount of behind the scene work that's been done just to make this as attractive of a bid as it can to get under that $20 million is kind of our threshold. And I'll let Mark kind of take what the vibe is out there. Because all we're going off of is the professional estimator's guesstimate, which is higher than 20 million. And that's 27. Well, I'm sorry. No, 27 is our entire budget. The construction contract, which is what we're going to have to bid for, is 19 to 20. So that other 6 or 7 is the
furniture for inside, the architect fees, the balloon project, all the other soft cost. So the construction budget portion is like 19 to 20 million. So sorry, that's a little confusing. So that's been a lot of it, is how can we trim? It's kind of like pickleball, trim without messing with that natatorium, right? Trim without messing with what people really care about, which is those pools and that environment. And Mark, I'll let you kind of speak to that.
Thank you. That's I think you answered it. We went through it, we being really the collective, we here, along with the design team, and went through it and kind of every aspect of the project. Found a lot of places to either cut, reduce scope, or refine the scope. But also found like we didn't have storage. We didn't have the storage that was needed. So we actually carved out a room in the center changing room, and it'll be perfect. It's great location, but
Without adding square footage.
without no, that was a hard no. We're not adding square footage. We're not changing the envelope. We're not none of that. So that was some of the first response that we got. We're like, no. There's been a big effort to dive in here. I mean, when we came in, it was a 75% set of plans. That's pretty far along. That's things are pretty well baked, I'll say. I think we've had a very positive impact on costs and also the operational aspects of the building as well. Not to add backs and stuff, but it's just the more time we have in it, I think the more we can influence kind of some of those things. I think we're in a really a pretty good place right now. I think we're in the best place that we can be for the pricing, and it's kind of up to the general contractor gods at the moment to do their magic and see if we can get there.
And I think it's worth noting too that Tom has been unbelievably valuable in this process. The amount of stuff that he catches and notices and just knows from his experience here, not just the landscaping plan, which he completely redesigned and saved us a lot of money and a lot of hassle for not redoing things. But in the parking lot, the storage, the maintenance thinking, I mean, he sees things through a very practical implementation thing. And having him as being part of this has saved a lot of hassle and a lot of money on this too. So kudos to Tom on that.
The toughest thing with this whole project is infrastructure. For over 5 years, I've been bringing up. I've been listened to early on. $27 million number. Everybody would realize this is tearing up the entire park. This is a one project. This is a water system, huge, large on-site center. We were just meeting the other day with electricians about how do we power blowers that are going to be located in tanks below my shop. They have to bring in additional power. I mean, this is a very complicated project. It's 3 projects really in one.
What we've done to that end in the bid package, we've said, thou shalt walk the job site with us. Here's 2 alternative times.
Yeah.
You have to see it. Don't bid on it if you're not gonna see it. It's just there's enough complexity that I think people are gonna go, oh, well, that's not what I intended, or I didn't know. Like, well, no. Let's make it available.
Showing's always better than telling.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 6 to 8 acres minimum of trees. Major impact in this park. We're gonna also have to figure out when it starts and we're shutting the areas of the park off.
Tom knows the park, which is why it's been so valuable. When you start talking about putting the septic here in the water, he knows it off the top of his head. Tom doesn't go back and research. It's like, no, I was here when they put those lines in, and it was, it's sped things up and it's kept things kind of on pace,
which is helpful. I have put multiple messages in Island County too. One of the strips of land that's still an issue is there's about probably a 10-foot stretch of land between our old offices, that parking lot, and where our property line is, probably 10 to 15 feet. I put in multiple requests to the director there, just saying, we talk about taking these down, we take everything else down, just for safety reasons. Because once those are unprotected trees, you saw the fence across the street that had the big old thing come down.
Mhm.
Well, there's gonna be more of that, and it's either gonna go into our parking lot or onto their parking lot or onto their building. So anyway, so we're still trying to get that figured out. It seems efficient and on everyone's best interest. Just take those down and then we can replant something that's more manageable and safer. And Tom can kind of do that thing he does, making that look, nice. Because it's gonna be a bunch of, if you look at that space too, it's a bunch of random trees. It isn't like it's tree covered. It's like a tree here, tree over there. Yeah, it's ugly. It's not gonna, they're not safe. So we are still working on that part too. So. Any other pool questions?
Like, I greatly appreciate all the work you're doing on that. And I struggle internally with this whole, and I'll throw it to ARC, the original cost analysis of, no one wants to talk about that, but I do, because I was part of those meetings. This is how much it's going to be. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves in this place years later where it's dramatically different than what was originally quoted.
How did it happen?
Yeah.
One of the troubles was that there just wasn't a comprehensive, like really comprehensive budget that had been assembled that really included kind of everything you could think of that was going to be necessary to implement the budget. There was numbers being thrown around. And, so that was one of the first things that we did was assemble a draft and then went through it with ARC and with Brian and team and and we really kind of worked our way through them. So I think from a responsible place, I think we're in a good place right now. Like we need a good number. Then we might, we're hoping. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and if we do, party's on. Like I said, groundbreaking in the fall, and let's go. And that's very possible. I won't say probable. I would say possible. And, it's just the world we live in, right? Paying $5 for a dozen eggs. And that's the world we live in. So
It came down.
it came down. Maybe this will come down too. So it's exciting. The next few months are going to be exciting. All this stuff's gonna become real.
Anybody going anywhere in July?
Gotta be more.
We've already locked everybody's calendar. Nobody leaves till we
Well, and like I said, just at least be available virtually if you're gone. I know, it's summer for teachers and it's busy for caregivers. Yeah,
I'll speak to on our last one.
you'll be on your phone at least.
Real quick,
Right, if there's no, I'm sorry, Kate.
that we should just keep some action on it. Was it preparing a resolution, and was that next month or this?
That was next month.
Okay.
Sorry, we're having a little combine over here.
Right.
There's next month, we've got to start talking about pro and con committee for the levy and starting to recruit that. So that'll be on next month's docket to get approval to do that before we have a resolution down. So that's obviously we're gonna get that. So anyways, that's just internal logistics. Any other questions?
I would entertain a motion for the bid packet for the South Whidbey Aquatic Recreation Center.
Move to authorize the executive director to open bidding for the South Whidbey Aquatic Recreation Center. Once the first round of all local and state reviews have been received and deemed minor.
I'll second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to authorize the executive director to open bidding for the South Whidbey Aquatic Recreation Center once the first round of all local and state reviews have been received and deemed minor. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, I.
Krista, I.
Dick, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
One more pool thing when we're talking pool. I'm sorry, am I just free to keep going? Is that all right? The upcoming levy timeline, because it's kind of been what we've been talking about. But I want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as how we're gonna progress with the levy. So I'm just gonna read this portion. The current operation levy for the district runs between 2023 and 2026. The board has the option of running the levy a year early in November of 2025. And that levy then would go 26 to 29. This would result in us receiving funds at the higher level starting April of next year. So like we had the $600,000 in revenue this month, next year it would be that if the levy got passed in November, this time next year, we'd be looking at a really large amount of money. Okay, we'll get to this in a second. Staff are recommending the November 2025 for the following reasons. And maybe most importantly, it'll ensure that we have operational funds prior to opening the aquatic center. If we wait a year, it is possible the aquatic center could be ready to be opened and we would not have the money yet to be able to operate it. Number two, and Carrie pointed this out last week and it was a great point. It will allow us to build up our reserves and our beginning cash to the required threshold with the increased budget size. So that's something I hadn't really thought about. So we're going to have
By 2027.
yes. So we'll have that money kind of put aside now. And so we don't have to figure out.
Different requirements now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's higher requirements. Yeah. It also allow us, and this is another real important one, to hire a few key staff, particularly an HR manager early so they get the hiring under control. Maybe the aquatics manager, certainly the facility coordinator who could be there and involved in some of the behind the scenes stuff so that they are understanding it as we get going. Excess funds can be used for what they call FF&Es, which is in the budget now. So if we had excess funds where we could start buying some of the supplies earlier, that would take away from the other budget, which would be good. It'll be a cost savings to do it in November. If we do a special election in February or April, we're paying $70,000, $80,000 versus $10,000. It's a little bit of money in this huge scope, but it still is money. And then the debt service payments can be made towards the line of credit or the LTGO if applicable. In other words, if we had other things, we can put the money in there. We will not know, as I said before, the amount of the levy rate until pretty much late July. So it's going to be very tight. Deanna, early June, Deanna's the attorney. She will start drafting the resolution paperwork and all the different paperwork that's needed for this. It's just the number we won't know. We won't know whether we're asking for whatever the number is until we know whether we need to do an LTGO and some of that. So, anyways, the resolution to be put on this, I'm sorry. So the resolution to put this on the ballot will very likely be a special meeting in late July. Reminder that August 1st is the deadline to submit it to the county to get on the November ballot. I will throw one other option out if it's a Monday. If we do have another funding option that is at our discretion if we're close, we can do about $1 million line of credit through the bank. So if we got really close, and obviously it'd be a lot less money, but we do feel like we need a little bit more, it's another option. So, and we've met with Jim Nelson, but not recently. Jim Nelson being the bond guy, the guy that does the bonds. And we will be meeting with him before this all hits so that we really understand our financial options. Hoping we don't need them, but making sure we know what we're doing if we do need them. So the levy, I won't get into that slide again because we've seen it so many times. So anyways, I don't know that there's an action needed here other than unless you guys have an issue with the November levy proposal. It seems like the responsible thing to do. And like I said, I would just couple public meetings either way in the fall to just really make sure the public understands that this is consistent with what we said we would do as far as there's a levy coming. It might be a little higher than we anticipated, but it's what it is. And I think we'll be able to, good stewardship is really important. And we want to make sure that we are being as transparent as we can. And if they want to be critical of it, I'd love to hear the feedback. Because I think we haven't added extra people that I don't think aren't needed. We haven't added extra, the building is as responsible financially as I think we can make it. So that's the plan. Any objections, thoughts, comments, questions?
I think we should already start looking at a calendar for public meetings.
Locations.
And locations. And also just because of how busy it's going to get,
Yeah.
I think it's it's going to be September, like, so if we can already kind of look ahead and kind of target, I think that would be helpful. Also, we're going to need to do a mailing and kind of timing that with the meet, just kind of thinking about the fall strategic, it's a campaign.
It's a, yeah. And as we know with campaign, we can't tell them how to vote, but we can give them the information and that's what. And honestly, the Aquatic Foundation, I'm sure will be involved in their portion of this, but, yeah, my big thing is I don't want anyone in the public feeling like we're trying to push something through. I want them to feel very comfortable that we are doing everything we can do to be faithful with what they've given us, to build a pool that needs to be ran. And that's all this is. We're trying to run the pool that they told us they wanted us to build. So, I feel like the argument's gonna be pretty good. Arguments aren't gonna put it.
Again, they're waiting for us to provide that information.
I will say the levy will be a lot simpler if we can break ground in September. If we get a bid we can accept and there's construction
Right,
trucks and
there's visual.
dirt moving, it's a lot easier to pass a levy at that versus why isn't there? So it's gonna be a really interesting few months. And I think we've put ourselves in a great position. Honestly, Mark and his team, I can't imagine where we would be without them.
Manifest, don't worry, manifest, don't worry.
Appreciate it.
Oh, good. We're good. I get dibs on the first one on the cannonball line, so we're gonna get there. We're gonna have a beautiful pool. It's gonna be great. Public's gonna love it. And we'll get there. It's just it's a journey to get there. There's no doubt about it. So I don't think this needs a motion unless you guys don't think we should go in November. As long as you guys are comfortable with that, because you guys will sign off on the resolution when we get to that point. So that'll be your chance to vote on this. So, and that,
Thank you for being here.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
Mark, you are welcome to stay for the last item, but we're also done with pool stuff. So if you would like to,
I might need out,
Run away, run away.
dog waiting at home to get outside.
Yes.
there you go.
But thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Appreciate it, Mark. Appreciate the work.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we will move on to our last item, Commissioner Remote Attendance Policy.
well, the background of this, and I think I may have said this last month, was I was asked about if we had a remote attendance policy. And my first thought was, well, no, because we just did the policy manual. And Carrie, with her very sharp memory, remembered that the board had talked about this in the past. So she found that in November of 2013, there actually was an approved resolution regarding remote attendance. We then started digging through November of 13 till today to see if that had ever been overturned. We thought maybe in COVID, maybe you guys had changed something up, but no, you guys just followed the state rules and that was fine. So this resolution is the law of the land. It's the most recent thing the board has approved. So it is what we need to follow unless you guys make a change. And I submitted to you and I actually gave you a paper copy for reasons I'll explain in a second. So just some highlights of things that I pointed. First of all, nothing personal. I don't think it's a very well-written policy. I think it's confusing at times. It confused me reading through this a few times of what they were trying to say. So, but I took some nuggets from there. Here's some highlights of what they said, what the resolution says. It says one is that attendance via remote access should be rare, exception, not the rule. It says remote access may only be used if a quorum of the board is physically present for the meeting, with the exception of the occasions when an agenda item is time sensitive and remote access is needed for the.
For example, our special meeting.
Yes, but not all of you can show up remotely is basically what it's saying. You need to have a quorum here. Certain votes, and this is an interesting one, at the discretion of the board, not limited to bond issues, resolution of the budget, which is basically October and November's meetings. Tax levies should be physically present unless it's time sensitive. This is one of the one that was kind of hard for me to understand what they were saying. It says voting. Request to use remote access participation for voting purposes shall be limited to extraordinary circumstances and must be approved by the board chair prior to the start of meeting. That kind of reads to me like you can't vote remotely.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Yeah, that
I
was,
didn't like it because I don't think it's appropriate.
yeah,
If you're tuned into the meeting and you're fully there and listening, why would you negate your vote?
Right, so when I was reading through this and expressed my Fusion as well. It's 2013. There was no Zoom. There was no whatever it was we used before Zoom. It was only participation over the phone, which.
Yeah.
Right.
And you see a thing in there where it says
Get a lot of-
charges that you incur are on you. So if you call collect, it's not gonna be accepted. Yeah, different world. But this was an interesting one that again kind of speaks to the need to make this premeditated. It says if a commissioner wants to be remote, commissioner should notify the board of his or her intent the meeting prior. So in other words, if you wanted to be remote next month, you would say today. Or if that's not possible, that you let the director know at least 2 days ahead of time. So
I put an X on that one.
yeah, and I think
You mean,
the last one.
It's not technologically correct, right?
Right.
Again, putting on your going in the time machine way back 2013, right? I mean, it was just, we are a different world.
Yeah.
We have learned how to run businesses remotely. We have learned how.
Our pickleball guys did not have to drive from Tacoma
Correct.
to the meeting, which would have cost us a lot of money because we'd have to pay for that. So
How many thousands or millions of people are working remotely when they used to have to go into an office building?
it's true. I'm having AI sub for me next time. Just FYI, everything will be very clear.
I think you guys can all do that just for the meetings.
Okay, but I think I have a question for the staff on that. Does it, how does it affect the operation of the meeting? If you know if somebody is attending remotely or not? Or does it have, or it doesn't, because you could have, we could have members of the public online who have a public comment as well as physically, like, I guess, in terms of notification, what do you need to know in order to run a successful meeting?
Well,
Or do you need notification?
we need to know,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Just not showing up is unacceptable.
So,
So providing notification, even if it's an hour beforehand, you know what, I'm violently ill.
no, I'm not talking about attendance at the meeting. I'm talking about how you're attending.
small things.
Got it.
Attending the meeting, yes, you need to, you probably at least 3 days before the meeting, you
Well,
should know.
They did a great job of saying, hey, I've got this event that I'm going to with, and I won't be at the meeting. And
Sweet
you
home
gave
Alabama.
that notice
Right, like,
well in advance.
because we kind of need to know if we're gonna have a quorum or not. But this is specifically about remote attendance.
Right.
Do you need to know in advance how a commissioner will be attending?
Well, then I think that circles back into the part about for a quorum when we're voting,
Right.
that there's a physical in the building quorum and maybe just one is not attending or two, right? Because if we've got 3 bodies here,
That's the way it reads now. Whether you want to keep it that way, it's your decision. But that's the way. it
Well, we
reads
had
now.
quorums all the way through COVID,
Right. Right.
that we're not physically
Right.
there.
And I
but
think-
that did require state approval,
Yeah.
right? That all kind of fell under all that.
And I'm gonna step back for a second and also point out that I don't know why what we're looking at isn't in the policy manual or the bylaws. It looks like just an error, like someone
Yeah.
just forgot to put it physically in there. That's why we've never seen this before. Carrie found this, it's like finding an antique roadshow thing. Carrie went up to her attic and found this thing. It's like, hey, this is the law.
I don't have any problem with it at all. I was just laughing and laughing with Jennifer because I think I've missed 2 days in the last 5 years, right? And I think there's value to being here
Yes.
physically, and I want to adhere to that. On the same token, ironically, the next 2 meetings I struggle. One meeting I'm backpacking
Yeah.
with my son in Europe, and then the other one I can do remotely, but I'll
The
be
July
out.
one's the important one.
But I share that just because I know very well from the meetings we've had that being present, being here, being able to see someone's facial recognition of an issue or how they feel about it is valuable versus seeing that on a screen.
Well, and having participated remotely from Minnesota, this is great. But you miss so much. So like when two people are talking at the same time, you don't get it.
Yeah.
You miss so much.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. I think we could change some wording. I think definitely people should be able to vote remotely, but I do think it should be the norm to be here. But we all have, reasons. I think we're all responsible and we're not going to use it. But if we're backpacking or out of state or sick kiddo or something, sure. But I don't think we should consistently not be present. And then for the respect the public too, if the public wants to come and see our interaction, they should be able to.
That's a good
Instead of
point.
just seeing a.
That's what I was looking for, Jake. It's something in there that says every effort will be made to attend the meetings in person, with the exception of special circumstances. And this is not a position that people are fighting over. So, you've got people dedicating time because they believe in the cause. So I think it's great. The only thing that caught me even remotely was just not being able to vote, in terms of remote.
My recollection from when we passed that policy was a lot of emphasis on that it should be rare, that it isn't, rare exceptions. The other thing is that as far as procedurally how it goes, we still have to have a physical place for people to come to for a public meeting, which, and then, we do need signatures.
The other,
Signatures.
and this is all minor, Chris. So the answer to your question is, we don't need the commissioners in the building, as long as they come sign the paperwork when they need to. It does some things, like, for instance, I set up for 4 tonight, just assuming that we'd have 4. So, there's some setup issues. There's extra copies that get printed when you're all, but so if I know you're not going to be here in person, then I won't waste copies. Those little things. Those are cosmetic. But, it doesn't affect us a whole lot, whether you're virtual or not. My recommendation, and I gave you 4 options here, but really, I'm just going to say, I think the simple answer here is to suspend the current resolution until you guys have a chance to decide what you want. And instead of trying to rewrite something that, in staff's opinion, isn't written clearly for 2025, as Jennifer said, that we just come back at a future meeting with, let's start building it up from the ground. Here's things that we want, whether it's we want commissioners to be here in person, like for instance, maybe when we're doing the budget meetings, those are public meetings for the budget, you got to be here. Or if, so many times a year you have to be here, or whatever you guys decide you want. But we could, instead of trying to rewrite something there, I would suggest, let's just start with the bullet points of here's what we value. And when we can't be here, here's what happens. We let Jennifer and I know ASAP. And if you don't, what happens? There has to be another shoot at that. Okay. So if you say, you can't be virtual more than 3 times a year, I'm using that as just an example. It happens on the 4th time. So there has to be some consequences to, okay, that means you're not allowed into the meeting. Becomes kind of this, that's what I'm saying. There has to be, otherwise the policy doesn't mean. So there has to be some kind of, so I'm just saying there's lots to think about. And I can start doing, I haven't done this yet, but I can look up we're not the only place that has remote policies. It wouldn't be too hard to find other similar jurisdictions and what their policies state. And I can bring some examples.
Word that in a way that says excessive missing of meetings is going to lead to board action or could lead to board action.
What the board
What
action.
do for an elected official? What can we do?
Well, you could stop the person from being remote. You could simply say, we're not going to give you access to the meeting remotely. That's the policy of the board, is you can't, I'm using that as an example that may not be the case. But if you say, as a board, you have to be present for the budget hearing, and Jake says, I'm not here, but I want to be virtual for the budget hearing, then I guess the answer could be he could show up maybe and be just like a community member, but he would lose his voting rights. I'd say there's ways to play with this.
I think in terms of, budget or resolution, I think that can be difficult. And I would hate for somebody to be blocked or can't vote on something as important as the budget.
Sure. Agreed.
I think instead of counting like X many per year, I think that puts an onus on you to keep track. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Maybe something like 50%.
I just think it's a
It-
professional courtesy thing. Things
Looking
happen in
for
life.
a-
You could have a death, you could have certain things
Sure.
that just happen, and I don't want it to be that linear.
Right. I think extenuating circumstances and this as someone who has a parent in another state, being only children of a parent in another state,
There's times we gotta go.
there's times we gotta go and we don't know how long we're gonna have to stay.